uh, with the Q&A session, weekly Q&A session where we'll be discussing all the PMP sample clone questions, the questions which appeared in the real exam. Although we are not allowed to go out and share the exact content, but then we have changed the or rephrased the sentences and we'll be sharing with you. So we'll also be going through all the tips, techniques, and also the guidance whatsoever to go ahead and crack the questions end to end. And obviously, as always, feel free to ask us any questions with regards to PMP. So we'll go ahead and clear all your doubts, all your queries, and we'll be going ahead and taking such sessions weekly, each and every week whatsoever. So before we get started with the Q&A session, we will go ahead and just take you through a couple of slides. Firstly, we'll talk about the PMP exam structure, just briefing you about that, and also up and over that we'll go ahead and take you through the people, process, business domain, and also the agile and the predictive kind of split among all the questions in PMP 2021. So let's get started. Okay, so I'm making it full screen. As you go out and see out here, the PMP exam is delivered on computer. Of course, you know it very well. It's going to take you 230 minutes. It's either home based or it's proctored. That is the center based whatsoever, and even it has 180 questions. You don't have a pass or fail percentage out there, but then you go ahead and get to see that get a percentage to go ahead and take forward. That is it is as such 70% score out here, which is given by PMI, but then it's not officially the percentage score that you should be at all worried or bothered about. So it can range between 65 to 75, but then we say that you go out and make sure that at least 70% of the questions are correct at your end and take it forward accordingly end to end. So as you see, the split among the people, process, and business domains among all the topics are 42%, 50%, and 80% respectively. And you have a 50-50% split up between predictive and agile domains. So agile is definitely one of the very important topics out there in 2021. We will be having around 70 to 80% of the questions coming from agile. So which is why weekly basis we'll be discussing more on the agile questions and helping you all get very kind of high levels of confidence in terms of acing the agile questions. So having said that, one of the other questions that I also go out and get to see from our examinees day in and day out, as such, is the the PMBOK as such, whether to go for PMBOK 6th edition or 7th edition. So the PMBOK edition that you need to follow is still the 6th edition itself. So let me go ahead and share with you the screen as such. Uh, so let me go ahead and open the tab. And as you see out here, the edition that you need to go out and refer to is still the 6th edition itself. Yeah, so be rest assured with regards to that. It's not the 7th edition that is applicable for the exam. It's still the 6th edition. You need to follow that end to end and get going as
Soumya,
per the guidance and as per the the tips and tricks that's being shared from us. Yes, Varun, you have something to share?
you sharing your screen by any chance?
Yeah, I am sharing my screen, so I have put
I
it
can't
on.
see that. I can't see that. Can
So
you
are
share
you
your
able to
screen?
share or see now? Not the PPT. I'm referring to the. No, I'm referring to the window out here. I can share the link, of the window out here in the chat as well.
Yeah,
Let
why
me
don't you do
share
that?
this here. Yeah, I've shared the link out here, so please refer to that link. That has, explicitly mentioned about PMBOK 6th edition being applicable for 2021 syllabus. Yeah, so feel free to refer to us and also go ahead and refer to us at any point of time. So let me again go ahead and make the screen visible. I will just check if you are also able to view the same. So I'll go to the questions now.
Soumya, turn off and turn on your. your screen share option. We can't see
Yeah,
anything.
yeah. I'm doing that. I'm doing that. Hold on. Yeah, now are you able to see my screen? The questions.
I can't see it. See it. Thank you. Perfect. I can see your screen, but I lost you now. Soumya, I can't when I can't see something. I don't know.
I'm not saying anything. I'm just just toggling out as such
Okay.
my screen, and I'm just focusing on the question right now.
Okay. Can you share your face also on the right hand
Yeah,
side
I just shared
so
my
that
face right
it's
now. So are you not able to see?
okay. Mm.
Just a second. Okay, so we are done with the timer. Let me go ahead and explain the question. I hope you guys are all able to see the screen. There is the question out here, question one. Yeah, so as per the quarterly results, the prices are being driven down by competitors. This is causing the company to lose market share. Also, midway into a product development project, it appears as though that the sponsoring unit is unlikely to get return on their investment. Okay, so which of the following options must be done by the project manager to adapt to these new conditions? Okay, so whenever we are reading the question, let's break it down to whatever the key aspects or the key components are there as per the questions. So out here, the key component out here being is the fact that the prices are being driven down by the competitors. So there are competitors of my product in the market, and because of the competitors, the prices are being driven down. Okay, and we are also very importantly losing the market share. Midway into the product development project, it appears as though that the sponsoring unit is unlikely to get the ROI or the return on investment. Okay, well and good. Now, which of the following options must the project manager follow to adapt to these conditions and go ahead and see that the return on investment is as per the expectations of the company or your organization? Option A, come up with a cost benefit analysis of deliverables to help optimize the speed and delivery cost. Yes, absolutely. Whenever we go ahead and deal with such kind of ROI statements whatsoever, we need to go ahead and think through what is my cost divided by benefit, right? Or on the other hand, benefit divided by cost, checking what all benefits I can go ahead and get with what all investment I go ahead and made at my end. So the analysis of cost benefit on the deliverables will help me not only come out with my way ahead, but also in terms of optimizing the speed as well as the way or the cost in which we are delivering. Right. So we need to minimize the delivery cost and also simultaneously optimize the speed. So option A looks good. Deliver the same feature as the competitors? Well, I don't need to read the remaining part of the sentence. So if we are going ahead and delivering the same feature as that of the competitors, why am I going ahead and thinking through? Right? So we'll always have to have an edge out there, as compared to the competitors. Had the option went ahead and said about similar features as compared to competitors, then it would have been interesting. The same feature as the competitors won't obviously drive any edge, and we are looking forward to an edge being driven from this question, right? Option B gets ruled out. See, what I'm doing out here is out of all the options A to E, I'm going ahead and eliminating those which doesn't seem proper to me. Option C, replace local staff by outside staff incrementally who can work at less hourly rates. Obviously, the question doesn't ask us to go ahead and reduce the cost. It is going ahead and asking us to maximize some kind of business value from the product and increase the market share. So that's how we'll be able to win over our competition, right? So you're not going ahead and obviously looking out for ways to go ahead and reduce the local staff, just by coming out with someone who might not be as efficient to drive or deliver the value end to end. So obviously option E also gets ruled out. Now, split out an agile track to incrementally maximize value within a fixed budget. Absolutely makes sense. So we are having a fixed budget. We are supposed to go ahead and maximize the value, right, on our agile track end to end. So when we do that as such, incrementally, remember the keyword of incremental out here being or referring to the fact that we are delivering something of value end to end at the end of all the increments. So splitting out an agile track or coming out with an agile track, which will help us come out with incremental delivery of value end to end within the fixed budget that we have at our end, is obviously the way to go. So even option D also looks good out here. So we go down below. Let me. In order to help deliver the intended scope with less overhead costs, fast track the remainder of the project. Well, fast tracking the remainder of the project as such is definitely an option. But out here, if you think in the box or inside the scope of the question out here, obviously the question of fast tracking the project or even crashing as such, for say, where we go for more resources whatsoever, is not my main goal. My main goal out here is to deliver more and more value with optimized speed and reduce costs whatsoever. So obviously option E doesn't also stay out. So if you are going ahead with two options out here, so the cost benefit analysis as well as you going ahead with splitting the agile track out here is the best option that stands out. So option A and D are the two standout options out here. So let's see. Let me go ahead and take out my pointer. And let me go ahead and come down. Let me select both the options, come out with cost benefit analysis as we mentioned, and also splitting out an agile track to incrementally deliver business value. So these should be the best options out here as you see. Yeah. So let's move ahead with the next question. As you see, the explanation also aligns with whatever we discussed right now. So let's move ahead with the next, and let me start the timer. You have 60 seconds again.
Guys, one more thing. Please make sure in the chat section you are answering what you think is the correct answer, and I need to see your also. I'm reviewing each and every comment over here, so please make sure you're doing that.
Okay, so we are done with the timer. Let me go into the question and pull out the pointer. Okay, so you are the project manager of an agile software project which is security classified. The project requires external expertise and delivery to add a module based on machine learning. Now, an approved supplier asks you to join the daily meeting with the supplier's agile team. Yeah. However, your day is filled with internal meetings. By which of the following options can both the teams synchronize interactively but less frequently? Now, very common aspect out here being depicted. So you are not necessarily only in charge of one project, right? So there can be multiple projects whatsoever. So out here, one of the projects is security classified, and that requires external expertise to help deliver some value based on machine learning. Now, an approved supplier asks you to join the daily meeting with the supplier's agile team, which is a different team altogether. So here we are talking about two different teams. Yes, so if we are supposed to go ahead and make the interactions between these two teams, to the optimum level to help drive the productivity or even the efficiency between the two teams, so obviously, we'll have to come out with some of the other aspect. Yeah, so let's see what are the options out here. Come out with a common electronic Kanban. Now you know it very well that Kanban is a visual board, right? Out there where you just go ahead with say to do, doing, done, yeah, such kind of items, so that get to visualize the flow, as well as the team knows who is responsible for what, as well as if there are any potential bottlenecks or not. So it's just a visualized form of information being supplied to you, right? So obviously, electronic Kanban is just an information radiator out here for you just to go ahead and make sure that whatever information is available, you go ahead and get to access that. Obviously, that's not going to be the option out here. The option out here should go ahead and take care of you going ahead and optimizing the internal meetings between two teams whatsoever, right? So option A goes ahead and gets negated. Have iterations aligned with common retrospectives. Obviously, the iterations are or have to be aligned with common retrospectives whatsoever, but that is not helping deal with this problem. I need to go ahead with better interactions between the two teams to help drive the efficiency. Option B also gets ruled out. Okay, option C, add a scrum of scrum layer and then execute it. Now, very important, the scrum of scrum layer in agile is a scaled agile concept where you have all these scrum teams, yeah, coming in shade of one scrum of scrum. So in this scrum of scrum, you're actually facilitating the discussion between the various teams whatsoever. So out here there are two teams. So obviously, if you have such common scrum of scrum aspect out there to help deal with all the teams as such involved, so obviously that would be the most efficient way to go out and deal with it. So adding a scrum of scrum layer is definitely the way to go forward. Option D, coming out with a fishbowl windows for each site. Now, fishbowl windows as such in your organization would be team discussions whatsoever, which will have external and internal circles within which you can go ahead and discuss within the scope of your team itself. So it's nothing pertaining to you going ahead and discussing among or between the various teams. Yeah, so it is restricted to only your team, and you are not going ahead and seeing out or up and over whatever the team are. Yeah, so it is normally dealt with. There is fishbowl technique normally deals with large teams or discussion between large teams whatsoever. So keep that in mind and take it forward. So option D is also not the option out here. So the key thing what we did out here was to understand that we have to come out with a way to synchronize teams efficiently. Yeah, and that's where the option which stands out is Scrum of Scrum, where you take it forward to a different level altogether. Yeah, so the correct option out here is option C. Let me take it out and let me go down and submit. As you see, this is the best option out here to go forward to help drive the efficiency between the two teams whatsoever. Okay, so are there any respondents to? Oh, okay, so I see there are many respondents to for option A. There are a couple for option C, which is great. I hope those who have marked option D or any other options are able to know why exactly it's option C and why not. Yeah, if you still have any queries, feel free to go ahead and post in the chat section. So I'm moving ahead with the next question. Okay, there are 5 options out here, and I hope all the options are visible in the screen right now. Yes, and I'm starting the timer. 60 seconds. Okay, so let's go ahead and discuss about this question. Okay, so I see many of the options being B and E. So let's see what exactly is the option out here. Yeah. Okay, let me go back to the question. Let me put on my pointer and let's go through this question in details. So what this question says, so you are the project manager of XYZ firm, okay? So your firm's marketing director is unhappy that the agile innovation team is coming up with too many novelty products with very little business value. Now the key term out here is novelty products. Such products have very little business value to deliver. Okay, so you are part of the innovation team. You are seeing that you are coming out with products which are going ahead and delivering very little business value end to end. Now, which of the following actions should the project manager take to rectify the team's approach? Couple of options. Okay, now, very important, if you have to go ahead and drive business value at your end. So first and foremost thing that you have to go ahead and, keep in mind is, obviously you will have to come out with, some of the other scheme to, see to it whether you are, not going wrong in terms of ranking or prioritizing the features. So that would as such go ahead and help you to, come in line with what exactly you'll have to deliver at what point of time. Yeah, something of obviously some value, and also any other kind of scheme of things where, say for example, there are some criteria or some rules or some checklist out there to go ahead and safely ascertain that you are not going ahead and deviating from what is supposed to be delivered. Yeah, so these would be the key, kind of key things what you should be having in mind on an average when you have to deal with such kind of question. Increasing the business value being delivered with the products. Let's see what the options are. So option A, increase the story sizes to incorporate more valuable features. Is to increasing the story sizes the way to incorporate more valuable features? Of course not. And secondly, you are always having the product backlog, which is having the list of all the valuable features with more valuable ones coming at the top, the more valuable ones or the more important ones to deliver. So obviously, first and foremost thing is that if you're following agile, if you're having a decent and a product backlog at your end, you are obviously not going to deliver something which is invaluable or less valuable. The second thing is increasing the story size is obviously not the way to go ahead and incorporate more valuable features. Yeah, so option A gets ruled out. Okay. Now survey end users and rank the items in the product backlog as per the survey. Now, as I said, users or the persona or the persons, for whom you are creating the product whatsoever are the key persons who are, supposed to be there for you to help deliver the product. So when you are coming out with the product, you are going ahead and envisioning the product from the end user's perspective. So you can't go ahead and not give full priority to them. So you'll have to come out with the survey or the inputs from those end users, and then only take the product backlog forward. The second thing, which I was mentioning in the previous option as well, ranking the items out there in the backlog. So when you are thinking from the end user's perspective, when you are coming out with the features, followed by that, when you are ranking these features in the order in which they should be in the product backlog, your job is done. So rest thing is you go ahead and get those items in the sprint backlog and get started with the work. So that's what is missing, and that's what you should be focusing more on. Option B seems decent enough. Option C, instruct the team to undertake a training course on direct response marketing. Now, it's not any kind of marketing aspect that's missing out here, right? So it's not something like you are delivering something of high value and you are missing out on the marketing feature, right? So if you reflect back on the question, you are coming out with products with very little business value. So why will you go ahead and think about marketing whatsoever from this perspective? Obviously not. So option C is not going to be the option. Option D, let the marketing director approve each story by adding a process. So why will you let the marketing director again come in, come in the picture? And is the marketing director going to approve the story whatsoever? So are they the key people in the scrum team? Obviously not, right? So whenever you see a marketing director out here coming in play of an agile kind of setup whatsoever, especially since or given the fact that you are an agile innovation team, just mark that out. Also, agile team is self-organized, right? Why do you need leadership to go ahead and intervene out there when we are sufficient to go ahead and take it forward? You just need the necessary guidance and coaching. Option D also gets ruled out. Option E, tighten the value criteria and definition of ready by working with the product owners. Of course, that has to be one of the options, right? So as I said, the definition of ready is also one of the criteria which each and every of the stories should align to before even trying to implement those stories at your end. So if you have a tight enough definition of ready at your end, so obviously you are in good stead or good hands whatsoever to deliver, the products end to end. So have a tight enough definition of ready at your end. Work with the product owners and get the product backlog aligned whatsoever. Your job is done. So out here, out of all the options, option B and E are the best options. And I see that uh, yeah, so many of you have gone ahead and rightly chosen option C and E. There's one who has chosen option D out here. I hope that he or she is clear about why we are opting for option E instead. It's option B and option E out here. So let me just move out and choose options B and option E. And click on submit. So as you see, that is the best options, or those are the best options to go forward. So you're also going ahead and learning what agile is all about, right? So those who have just started the studies on agile. Okay, so going on to the next question. Let me start the timer. We have again 60 seconds. Okay, so last 5 seconds. Okay, so I see some D's coming out. Okay, let's see what's the correct option out here. Let me move back to the explanation. Okay, we put on my pointer. Okay, so here it goes. So you are the head of operations of a highly productive agile innovation team. Okay, so you are part of a highly productive agile innovation team, and you are the head of operations. Yeah. So you have informed the product owner that the company is not getting solid ROI from the team's work. So the company is not getting solid ROI on the team's work. That's what you have informed the product owner. Which of the following options detail out as to how should the product owner address the problem? So now, see, even before going for the options, are you seeing the way in which I'm reading the question? So you have to love the questions even before you come to the options. That as such, gets done with 50% of the work. Believe me. So try it out. Give 30 seconds of your time to read the question thoroughly, get the keywords, get the hint, and then only opt for the options. Yeah. So you have informed the product owner that the company is not getting solid ROI from the team's work. Which of the following options would detail out as to how the product owner would address the problem? Okay. Again, the ROI kind of scheme of thing, and how you should go ahead from the product owner. Let's see which of the options would tell us about that. Option A, run a retrospective with the project manager and go ahead with project cancellation. That's too extreme a thing, right? Why will you go ahead with project cancellation? Project cancellation is not the solution to the problem, right? Option A gets ruled out. Come out with minimum marketing features and prioritize backlog items. Now, very, very important to keep in mind the idea or the concept of the difference between minimum marketing features, or MMF, if you might, acronym it, or and MVP. Now, many of you must have as such gone ahead and heard this term MVP, which is nothing but minimum viable product. Yeah. So when we are talking about minimum viable product, so it is all about you coming out with the product with all the minimum viable requirements plugged into that product. So that's why it is referred to as minimum viable. But then the minimum viable product, very, very importantly, might not be the minimal marketable feature, might not be dealing with the minimum business increment, which will earn you the ROI. What is that? Now, if you take, for example, a website. So in the website, if you go ahead with the login feature out there, and you just say that fine, you have the MVP, the minimum viable product working, and you try to deliver it to the customer, will that yield ROI at your end? Obviously not, right? So you'll have to go ahead with the end-to-end kind of feature like the login, the enrollment link, as well as say for example the payment link, and all of which in entirety will make the product which will earn the ROI from the customer, right? So whenever you go ahead with the two terms, minimum viable and minimum marketable fraud product, always remember that minimum marketable will always inch one step higher in terms of the business or the revenues that it yields, because minimum viable at some points of time might even be disruptive with the kind of the products that they come out with. They might be way ahead or way in advance to the current generation, and people might not be accepting it as well. So if you're kind of tied between options B and D, remember it would never be option D, especially when you are looking forward to ROI. It always have to be or has to be option B. Yeah, we haven't yet gone for option C. Remember, even if you get the close enough option out here, don't just go ahead and jump by just clicking the option and moving on. No, so see option C or any other options which are left out. Lessen the number of team members as and when necessary to guarantee a positive ROI. You know it very well. That sounds absurd and is also absurd out of the context. Lessening the team members might or might not give you ROI. It's not a definitive solution. Option C gets ruled out. So the best option out here is option B. Come out with minimum marketable features. So let's see the option. Clicking on option B and submit. So as you see, option B is the right option. And if you have any further doubts on the difference between minimum marketable and minimum viable, it's a big discussion also. So feel free to reach me out. I'll also share my email ID, once we are done with this discussion. So you can just feel free to reach me out anytime. Yeah. So moving ahead with the next question. Even before that, let me see. Okay. So many of you have gone ahead and chosen option D. That's great. Awesome, guys. Keep it up. So these are actual real-time PMI clone questions with change of words whatsoever. So if you are getting these right, be rest assured in terms of your preparation, you are in the right track. Okay, so let's move ahead with the next question. Okay, so here you go. So I'm starting the timer. Okay, so last 10 seconds. Okay, so we're done with the time. So let me go back to the question. And here you go. Okay, so let me also go ahead and maximize the question for you. So I see that some of you are not able to read fully. I hope it should be more clear right now. So let me go ahead and explain the question end to end. Okay, so you are part of. Just hold on. Yeah. So you are part of an efficient, empowered, agile innovation team. So you and your team doesn't understand why the required approvals from legal department are allowed rather to delay your team's progress. Okay. So you approach your product owner in this regard, who replies that the approvals are needed to check for existing patents that block the team's product from going on to market. Okay. So which of the following options reveal as to how such conflicts could be prevented? Okay, so you are a part of again an efficient agile innovation team whatsoever. Now you and your team doesn't understand why the required approvals from the legal department, so there is some department whatsoever, there is a legal department, are allowed to delay your team's progress. Now you approach your product owner in this regard, who goes ahead and replies that the approvals are needed to check for existing patents. So the approvals are needed as such. is something which can't be done away with. But then more often than not, you and your team don't understand why it is at all needed. So now you understand after you approach the product owner. Okay, so earlier you didn't understand. Now you understand after you have approached the product owner as to why the legal department, so intervention would be needed in this current regard. Okay, so which of the following options would reveal how such conflicts, the conflicts in the sense how such kind of situations where you and your team were in dark as such all the while through can be avoided or prevented. So let's see what would be the right option out here. So make sure that the product owner explains the team the rationale behind the requirement workflow. Now, very, very important whatsoever. See, it's not the product owner's responsibility out there to explain the team all the while whatsoever about the rationale and other things behind the workflow. It's all about the scrum master's work, right? That is first point. The second thing is the team, if at all they have any doubt, they should be going ahead and asking the product owner instead of product owner having to go ahead and explain to the whole team time and time again. So it's an open and free and fair kind of communication. No one is up the hierarchy, no one is low the hierarchy. And there should not be any communication blockers, in between the team. So obviously option A, which says that you making sure or make sure that the product owner as such explains the team the rationale behind the team's requirement flow is not valid out here. Also, very importantly out here, the approach in regards to the approvals as such is being talked about, right? It's not about the rationale. So whatever is being talked out here is again out of the context. So option A gets ruled out. Option B, require the team to move a story to the blocked items in Kanban board based on their concerns about the progress. There's also not anything about the Kanban board, right? So why will you move a story to the Kanban board whatsoever just to go ahead and address the concerns? Obviously, option B doesn't make sense as well. Option C, mandate that supporting department stakeholders be present in the daily progress to report the progress time to time as such. Now, it's not also about the mandatory stakeholders who are present out there, right? It's obviously, not going to make any difference whatsoever out here. And it's not about, the stakeholders not being, or not reporting the project progress time to time. It's all about, you and your team not getting the full clarity about the product or some aspect whatsoever. Or say, for example, in this case, some department going ahead and blocking whatsoever. You think that they are blocking, but they are needed. So it's not about the mandatory stakeholders whatsoever. It's something which is out of the box or context. Make sure that the product owner can be easily approached to help with, help him with answering teams and queries. Yes, absolutely. This makes full sense out here. You are ensuring that the product owner can be easily approached. Let the product owner go ahead and explain or address the team's concerns and queries and let him take it forward. Shop's option D makes the most sense out here. Yeah, so let me go back. And let me opt for option D. So as you see, this is the correct option, and that is the thought process. See, there are various clues out here which will make it sure or make it kind of valid or evident for you that A, B, and C doesn't work out. And if you still have any options, feel free to put in chat. Let me see. Okay, so I see many have chosen for A as well. Okay, so it's not about the rationale as I spoke, right? It's not about the rationale. It's about all the things whatsoever. It's about you not getting some information or thinking otherwise, right? And even I see option C whatsoever. So it's not about the supporting department stakeholders, right? It's also all about the product owner and the team. So you need to think inside the context of the question. You don't need to think outside the box whatsoever. Yeah, so I hope by now you are clear about the question. Even if you still have any doubts, feel free to just ping on chat or even mail me as well. Okay, so moving ahead with the next question. So let me start the timer and let me make it full screen. Okay, so last 10 seconds. This is again a very interesting question. Okay, so you're done with the time. Again, feel free to post on my chat. So once I'm done with the discussion, I will just go back and review your chat messages out here. And many of you I already know. Some are my mentees, some are not, but still I know you by face. Okay, so let's go for the discussion. Let me pull out my face out here, and let me come out with the pointer. Okay, so the question is, you are in charge of an apparel brand. Okay, there are a number of high visibility complaints on social network about your brand's drop in quality. Now, your brand's drop in quality is something which you should be aware of, right? And there are increasingly high visibility complaints on social networks about your brand's drop in quality. Okay, well and good. Now, you are determined to place product quality above all considerations. You are determined to place it above all considerations. And with this mission in mind, you are out there to help set up a new agile innovation team. Now, which of the following options would be the most effective? Remember, most effective to help attain the team's goals. Okay, so something or some of the other product, yeah, is dropping in quality. Obviously, your brand is also suffering, and you are determined to help place the product quality above all considerations. Now, remember one thing: whenever we talk about product quality, it's all about the product going out and adhering to requirements. So, whatever the requirements are given at the start of the day, so you are going in and seeing whether the product is going out and matching those requirements or not. Okay, so if you have to go ahead and see to it that the product is matching very close to all the requirements, so what you should ideally be doing, you should come out with the mechanism where you're testing each and every step, you're checking each and every facet, and not letting any of slippage go ahead with with or without your approval or disapproval. Also, there can be no slippage whatsoever. So let's see what the options are. Option A: eliminate human error by creating an automated testing bench. Now, it might seem as though that, yeah, might be that human error coming in place, so obviously things might go wrong whatsoever, and possibly human error is something you need to go ahead and take care of. But very important, here you don't have any hint whatsoever in the question that there can be any likelihood of human error. So whenever you are in doubts and then you see in the question that there is no question of human error coming in play out there, don't just assume whatsoever. Just go ahead and knock it off. It can't be the option. You have to think in the box, not think out of the box. Remember that. Option B: come out with test driven development based on continuous user focus group inputs. Absolutely. This is bang on. Why? Because first and foremost thing is test driven development. So you know what test driven development is? You develop a product, which is backed by tests, which is what I was saying, right? So whenever you develop some increment of the product, you back it with the relevant tests and make sure that you have the product, in play end to end. So back it up with test driven development and ensure that you are also putting users inputs in play. And how you do that? By you obviously going ahead with facilitated discussions in the form of focus groups. You go ahead and have focus groups, have the inputs from their end, and come out with the test driven development end to end and take it forward end to end, right? So come up with test driven development out here, which is definitely one good option. Stands out. Come up with features that help benchmark against competitors' products whatsoever. Again, this might be the question or this might be the option, but you are not given in the question out here that whatever features you have come out with are not sufficient to go ahead and help you ace against the competitor's product. So will you go ahead and assume this as a saying that, hold on, whatever features I have in the product backlog, are they in line with or better than the competitors products? No, it's not given out here. So there are some complaints about your drop in quality, which means that whatever requirements are outlined, you are not providing as per the requirements, right? So that you can go ahead and get rectified only by virtue of test driven development, for example. Option C also doesn't stand a chance. Option D: fund using of better quality materials by raising the product price whatsoever. Nothing to do, right, with the requirements on the quality. No, wasting of time with this particular option. Option B stands out, and that should be the right option. Let's see. My bad. Option B out here. Option B, which is come up with test driven development based on continuous user focus inputs. That's what we discussed about, right? Option B is the right option. Yeah, as you see. Okay, let me go back out here. Okay, so someone came out with B or C. That's great. But when you are in such kind of a dilemma whatsoever, whether to go for B or whether to go for C, so out here, say for example, come up with features that benchmark against competitors' products. That is not the issue out here. The issue is pertaining to quality. And quality is again pertaining to the requirements that you have in hand from your customer, right? So you don't need to go ahead and think anything about, whether your features are as per the competitors or not. That's out of the box thinking, which is welcome, definitely welcome in your organization or in your work, but not in PMP. Very, very important. You'll have to think inside the box, not think outside the box. Yeah, think inside the box. Don't think outside the box whatsoever. Okay, so I see many of you have also chosen for B, which is great, awesome. Okay, so I hope that you are also clear about the fact that C is not the option, and you know what exactly is the reason behind it. Again, any queries, any doubts, feel free to put it on chat. So let's move ahead. Okay, let me put on the timer and let me move out of the screen out here. Here you go. Okay, so 22 more seconds. 10 more seconds. Okay, so let's dig deep into the question. Let me put my face out, and here I come. Okay, so feel free to. Okay, so I see that many of you have chosen for option D. Let's see what's the answer to this question. Let me put on my pointer. Okay, so here you go. You are the project manager of an agile development team. Okay, in order to remove a significant blocker, so there is some significant blocker out there. In order to remove that blocker, your team comes out with a workaround. Okay, so there is a significant blocker. Remember, whenever it is a significant blocker which you get to encounter right now, so it is more in the form of an issue for which you need a workaround. Okay, the team's output dramatically increases over the next two iterations. Okay, well and good. The team's output goes ahead and dramatically increases over the next two iterations whatsoever. Okay, now at the third iteration, the product owner feels horrified learning about the workaround and asks your team to come out with a better solution and redo the work. Now, which of the following is the best solution to prevent such situations? Now, very important, there are several scenarios going in out here. So take a pause. Don't directly jump to the options. Reread the question again. So you are the project manager of this team. You have to remove a significant blocker, and you came out with the workaround. Now this workaround as such helps the team go ahead and have dramatically increased output over the next two iterations. Okay, awesome, well and good. But at the third iteration, the PO goes ahead and feels that I didn't know about this workaround. How come the team come out with a better solution and come out with it whatsoever? So, since he was entirely in the dark, he just asked the team to come out with the, with redoing the work. Now, which of the following is the best solution to help prevent this situation? Is not asking what we should do next. Very important. Which of the following is the best solution to prevent such situations? See, hardly it takes 30 seconds or 30 to 40 seconds to read the question what's, and then remaining time to go out and safely mark the options. So you being a servant leader helping the team focus by offloading all work on improving impediments, this is certainly something which is out of the the thing out there. What will that go ahead and help do with this kind of situation whatsoever? What does that have to do in this particular situation? It's all about the miscommunication between the PO and your team, right? So what will your team focusing on improving impediment have to do anything between or anything about improving the situation between the two? Obviously, option A doesn't stand a chance. Option B, regularly engage with the product owner and run catch up meetings as and when necessary. Isn't this in line with our way of thinking? If you go ahead and have catch up meetings regularly with the product owner will be happy to share his or her thoughts. You as a team will be able to go ahead and share and also say that, see, this is the workaround that we came out with this at this point of time. This is what is helping us drive the team's productivity. Or even when you came out with the workaround, when you say it to the product owner will be more than happy. So there should not be any inhibitions, there should not be any blockers in terms of communication. And that's what this particular option is going ahead and saying. So option B is a good option. Option C, ask the product owner for additional funding for rework owing to lack of collaboration within the team. It's entirely out of box or out of context. See, if you go ahead and don't read the question carefully, chances are high or odds are high that you will mark this option as such as correct. Obviously, this option has nothing to do with the question. Option C, gets knocked off. Option D, lay out the decision path conditions in the ground rules and correct any deviations whatsoever as early as possible. There are no deviations whatsoever, right? It's just lack of communication. That's what is given and that's what you will have to go ahead and rectify. Option D also gets knocked out. See, it is as simple as this. Yeah. So option B is stand out here. Let me go ahead and mark this option. Click on submit. As you see, this is the right option out here. Okay, so let me see who all went ahead and marked this question as correct. Yeah, I see some B's, I see many D's out here. So very important. So all those who have marked D must be reading the question even more carefully out here. There's no deviation that's being taken into consideration. It's all about the lack of communication, lack of openness between the product owner and the team, right? So you should be mindful of that and then only move ahead. Okay, so let me move on to the next question. And let me first go ahead and make it full screen. And here goes your timer. Okay, so last 10 seconds. Okay, so times is up. Let us see what the option is and feel free to again post your options out there in the chat section. Let me go ahead and first make it like this and then go back to the pointer. Now let's see what this question talks all about. So you are part of an agile team which comprises of highly skilled product design engineers. Okay, so you're part of the team which is comprising of all the highly skilled product design engineers. Okay, well and good. The design engineers have earned new duties based on their reputation for quality and speed. So now they are highly efficient. They go ahead and deal with high quality products and with optimized speed. Yeah. However, in this role, the team output has steeply dropped as compared to their design work. Now, whatever design work they were performing in terms of high quality and high speed, you don't see the same kind of output or the same kind of efficiency overall from the team's perspective. Which of the following measures, two out of them, yeah, are most effective to help improve the team's productivity in the present scenario? So you'll have to choose a couple. Okay. So how to go ahead and improve your productivity and kind of match, if not supersede, that of the design engineers. Okay. Now, first and foremost, if you are in such kind of a scenario where you have to go ahead and brainstorm some, new situation or new, kind of improvement that would help drive your team's productivity, how about you going ahead with a creativity spike? Now, what is a spike whatsoever? Is a small burst of solution, taken from extreme programming aspect, which helps go ahead and, help clear the same. So we, by the way, have detailed discussion about Spike, what it is and what it is not, and even in our boot camps, we'll be helping to reflect what exactly a Spike is and how to go ahead and deal with it. But for the time being, just remember and keep in mind that it's all about the small bursts of solution that you would be needing at that point of time to help implement and improve the productivity in a different direction altogether. So whatever you need or whatever delta in terms of productivity you'll have to address, why not have a spike and go ahead and address the next iteration? This makes awesome sense. Although at first instance this might not make full sense, we can ballpark it. Let's see what the other options are. Increase team motivation to through team building event. Now is the question or is the need out here from team's motivation perspective? The motivation can be at any level whatsoever. There is no information whatsoever given in the question about motivation. So I'm not there to safely assume that team's motivation can be, hampered or can be taken forward or is hampered already and needed to be taken forward. I don't have any such information. Option B gets ruled out. Recruit more T-shaped profiles into your team. Remember these T-shaped individuals, a generalized specialist kind of individuals. We'll also be discussing about this concept in details, in our day-to-day boot camps, and many of you have already attended know the importance of T-shaped profiles, right? So those with specialization in their domain of work or in their zone of work whatsoever, and also the generalization, that they can go ahead and have across all the domains. So, kind of designers going ahead and pitching in for developers' work, or developers going ahead and pitching in for designers' work, and vice versa. Kind of also driving the productivity all throughout in a similar manner. So, out here in the question, the designers' productivity is high, developers is not that high. But that can be, went ahead and safely, mitigated by having T-shaped profiles in your team. So option C is a very good option in this regard. Get help from creative thinkers to mentor the team. I have no opposition against creative thinkers, but then you don't need coaching the team. That's not the output of the aspect out here. Mentoring or coaching the team is definitely not standing out from this particular para out here. Option D also gets knocked out. Extend the iterations to adjust to two new tasks whatsoever. Well, you are not here to extend the iterations to adjust to the task, right? So the task can come at any point of time, at what point of time. But this is entirely out of the count. You're not discussing about the task. You're discussing about how to build up the productivity whatsoever. What best to go ahead and do in this regard. Obviously, option E also gets knocked out. So out here, among all these options, option C as well as A stands out. Yeah, so these should be the options. So let me go ahead and put out the pointer. And let's mark option A and option C. As you see, these are the right options out here. We see what all the chat messages that you came out with. Okay, so many have gone for option A and D as such. None of you went for option C. So you should be, remembering about the T-shaped profiles. It's very, very important. If you wish, you can also reach out to me with more details on T-shaped profiles. We're happy to help you in terms of that. Remember, those guys are generalized specialists, and that's what you optimally look forward to in an agile team. Let's move forward with the next question. We're done with 8 questions whatsoever, and no, you won't be getting 50% mark out there. Yeah, if you go ahead with any of the options correct. Yeah, so you'll have to go ahead and get both the options correct. Then only you'll be able to get the full marks of the question. Otherwise, zero. Okay. Okay. So for any further questions in this regard or on this question, just save this question and you can feel free to reach me out at any point of time. Let's move ahead with the next question. Okay, so let me go ahead and make it full screen and switch on the timer. Last 10 seconds. Okay, so our time is up. And please feel free to again mark the relevant options in the chat window. We'll just go ahead and see. So even before I see this particular option, I see that one of you has gone ahead and mentioned about in the previous question about recruitment being out of the context. See, whenever we are talking about T-shaped profiles, we are not recruiting individuals from outside. How about upskilling the existing team and making them T-shaped? That also is one of the key cases, right? We are not going for fast tracking. We are not going for crashing individuals. How about making it seamless inside the team itself? If the team is not T-shaped, how about making it T-shaped and getting forward? Yeah. So we were discussing about upping the level of productivity. That's what we should be giving in mind. Okay. Again, any other questions, please, get in touch with me offline. I will help fully clear about this. Okay. So let's deal with this current question. Let me put on my pointer. We move out. Okay, so John is in charge of an innovative product that fails to satisfy targeted customers. The product is innovative, but unfortunately, it fails to satisfy targeted customers. Okay, now substantial investments have already been made in marketing campaigns and quality control. So substantial investments, or the amounts have gone in targeting the marketing campaigns and the quality control. Now, which of the following agile practices do you think that John should come out with to help prevent future failures of this kind whatsoever? Okay, so you have come out with a product that has failed meeting the target customers vision whatsoever, or they have failed to meet the target customer satisfaction. So which of the following options or agile practices should you come out with to go ahead and help prevent such a kind of failures in future? Okay, so let's see. Option A: come up with more tests and features to minimum viable product. Be very, very careful when you go ahead and see this minimal viable product option out here. Now, in 8 out of 10 cases, this minimum viable product might not be aligning with the minimal marketable product, yeah, which might be useful for the customer, or even the minimal business increment, which will be going ahead and giving you ROI. So it might be as basic as you just getting a login feature done. Whenever you treat or read about minimum viable product, keep that in mind. It's as basic as getting a login feature done. So by itself, will the website stand just merely on login feature? Obviously not, right? So coming out with anything pertaining to or going ahead and giving value add in terms of minimum viable product whatsoever is not going to help deal with or help resolve this situation out there. The question out here is having to satisfy the customers. It's not about the minimum viable product. You might have already come out with the minimum viable product whatsoever. Although that's not given in the question, but that's not sufficient to satisfy the target customers. Remember that. Option A is ruled out. Ensure continuous user testability, usability testing on product releases. So whatever product releases you come out with, go ahead with continuous consumer usability testing on that product and ensure that it's complete or clean and also as per the requirements or expectations of the consumers end to end. Ensure that there should not be any two ways with regards to this. And this is one of the options which also goes ahead and aligns with the test driven development option earlier, where you're going ahead and having the value being driven, yeah, end to end whenever you go ahead and deliver the product. So come out with usability testing frequently on product releases, and then you see the magic. That's what you should be thinking about when you see this option. Option B stands out. Let's see the other options. Define target customers persona type in a broader way whatsoever. Now, very important, when we talk about user persona out here, it's all about embodying or personalizing his or her kind of end user kind of thought process or his requirements, coming out with surveys from his or her end, and then going ahead with the scheme of things out here. Now, very important that this is also definitely one of the ways in which you should be ideally thinking through. But out here in the question, it is not mentioned that you are falling short of the requirements whatsoever. If it is failing to satisfy the target customers, first go ahead with continuous usability testing, demo it to the customers, and then see what exactly is the difference. Yeah, so even if you go ahead with users persona whatsoever, which you should have done at the early phases whatsoever at the start, that is not going to help solve a big deal of a problem within minimal time. Remember, agile is all about being fast, right? So come out with more testing from the consumer's perspective and win over it. So C is definitely a good option, but if you are asked to choose between B and C, it will be B because that stands out. Yeah, sync objectives between marketing and product owner. Well, obviously, marketing and product owner has nothing to do out here. It's all about the agile team's perspective. You'll have to think through, or just think from the agile team's perspective, and none of the other team members goes there and comes in play. It's not about the marketing which is suffering. If something is failing to satisfy targeted customers, it's not that you just market the product and get done. It will have to end to end kind of satisfy their usability and all. So you will have to go ahead and keep that in mind. So option B out here is stand out. Let's see. So as you see, option B is stand out as such, and you need the customer, user testing and the feedback from the customer to help develop or help better satisfy the customer, right? So that's what is also one of the core agile practices to get feedback faster from the customers. Okay, let me see what were the options you had chosen. Okay, so many went with C. That was, kind of an expected, kind of thing. That was a good option, as I said, but not the best option. Option B is the best option out here, the standout one. Okay, so I see many of you have chosen D and C. I hope you are clear as to why it is, not the other options whatsoever. So let me go ahead with the next question, which is the last question. And great that you have all, kind of, continued with me in this journey of the 10 questions that we have gone through thus far. So let me go ahead and make it full screen. Let me come on to the next question, and here goes your timer. Last 10 seconds. Okay, so we're done with the time. Let me go back to the explanation out here and pull up my pointer. Okay, so let's see what this question is all about. So you are an agile project manager. Okay, the agile project that you are managing is at the end with all the stories completed on schedule. So you have completed everything as per the schedule or on schedule, and all the tests have gone ahead and passed. Okay, now the customer does not consider a project as success. Now, you say, for example, all the stories are completed on schedule and all the tests have also passed, but then also the customer goes ahead and think that no, the product can't be a success whatsoever. So then there is obviously a gap in the customer feedback and how we are progressing with the product, right? So remember, whenever you deal with any agile project whatsoever, you're always going in and considering customers' feedback every now and then to make your product better. Now, if there happens to be a huge gap between what you are delivering and what the customer is looking forward to from your end, obviously you will have to go ahead and kind of pull out your socks and see what best you can do. What best you can do, obviously, in terms of getting the demos in play whatsoever. If you are not going ahead and demoing, please go ahead and demo, or you go ahead and increase the frequency, or you see that for any reason if some of the other stakeholder is not able to attend the demo, make them all attend, and then see, yeah, what the key or the end-to-end thing is from the customer's perspective. Because remember, in the question it is all given about the customer or the consumer, not considering the product a success. Yeah, so if you see option A, obtain customer feedback on incremental reviews and or incremental release demos and user tests. Perfectly fits with our line of thinking. You are possibly not obtaining the right feedback when it matters the most. Possibly not, at the end of the iterations. You are going out and possibly taking things for granted and taking it forward accordingly. So the only thing that comes out or stands out from this option is the lack of the demos or the feedbacks that you are going out and coming out with the demos out here. So option A is definitely a good option. Making sure that the testing plan incorporates non-functional requirements in the backlog. Now, very important, it has been given in the question that all the tests have passed whatsoever. Now, it has not been given in the question whether the tests are meeting the coverage or not whatsoever. So why will you go ahead and assume the same? Obviously, you are not going to go ahead and assume that the tests are not meeting the requirements whatsoever until unless it's given in the question. So if all the tests pass, you have to assume out there by default that all the tests are aligned to whatever the acceptance criteria is. Yeah, so obviously making sure that the test plan incorporates all the requirements is not going to help you out in this scenario. Before developing the product backlog, ensure that the product vision is approved by the customer. Now, product vision, remember, is a high level vision at the kickstart of the project when the customer and you go ahead and align yourselves to go ahead and help dig deep into the product, help come out with the product end to end as per the envision of the or the as per the vision of the customer. So why will you go ahead and think from that perspective out here at this point of time? So if you are confident that the tests are passed and the customer is not considering it as a success, it's just about you going ahead and scheduling more demos and going ahead and matching their expectations as much closely as possible. Why will you go ahead and think about ensuring the product vision being approved and all these things? So if that is the case, then the entire project is a failure. You are not at that pinnacle, right? So obviously option C is not also the right option out here. Option D, come out with an agreement with the customer on success criteria which are integrated into the definition of done. Well, in the definition of done, by the way, is a set or a criteria or a checklist of items or the points which you need to go ahead and ensure for each and every of the user story before passing it to the release or the sprint release or demoing it to the customer. So now, if the tests have all passed at your end and you are not scheduling demos whatsoever, what will the definition of done go ahead and be in place? Definition of done is making sure that you are having a user story which is ready to be demoed. If you're not having the demo itself, if you're not getting the feedback itself, why will or what will the definition of done come in play? See, this is the thought process whenever you go ahead and think about these questions whatsoever. And the better you get at this kind of thinking whatsoever, the better you will see your accuracy going ahead and getting driven forward. So obviously option D also doesn't have a chance, and option A is the standout or the right option. So let's move out, click on A, and as you see, this is the right option out here. Get customer feedback, go ahead with demos, and then see how things proceed end to end. Let me see what all you went ahead and commented out here. Yes, acceptance criteria. Definition of done means ready for customer use. I won't say that as such because until and unless you demo to the customer as such, he won't get to know whether it's ready for customer use or not. Definition of done makes the item ready for the item to be demoed to the customer. Keep that in mind. Yeah, acceptance criteria as such, yes, absolutely. So acceptance criteria for each and every of the user stories whatsoever will have to be in play for all the user stories whatsoever. Yes, absolutely. But then the acceptance criteria is again from the user's perspective that you have documented at your end even before coming out with the product. Now, as per the acceptance criteria, your QA team has also come out with all the tests, right? So now, if your QA team has come out with all the tests and going ahead and seeing that the stories are matching and going ahead and demoing also end to end whatsoever, chances are high or odds are high in this particular scenario that your acceptance criteria at the initial phases has some of the other glitches out there, and you have to go ahead and come out with the demo and then get in line. Yeah, so keep that in mind whatsoever out here, and take it forward end to end. Very very important, the key things, get those correct. You going ahead and as a mentor guiding or coaching the team, or you going ahead and coming out with the the key aspects of dealing with the user stories and the other facets, or in this kind of scenario going ahead with faster feedback, adapting or coming out with agility is more important out here in this case. Yeah, so having said that, I hope you all enjoyed today's session, all the 10 questions whatsoever. This is the end to end kind of thinking that you need to go ahead and put forward end to end from your perspective as well. And this is how we will go for each of the weeks on the Thursdays as such, and we'll take forward end to end. So any kind of technical clarification on any of the questions, feel free to reach me out on my email ID. We type it on our chat. Yeah, and also very importantly, we'll come out with newer facets on agile, which is as such going to occupy 70% of the your exam contents whatsoever. So that's very important to go ahead and keep in mind whenever you are dealing with the exam. Yeah, so very important to be in shape, be in the right shape to go ahead and take it forward, and also be very mindful of the fact that each and every month we are having boot camps, helping tide over students day in and day out. So those boot camps will not only be dealing with mentorships just like I did for all these questions out here, is also going to help you tide over, all the concepts from scratch till the end, the best way possible. The boot camp is something which you should not miss. Why? Because someone of the likes of, say, for example, mentor Varun, will be going ahead and taking forward, all the doubts, clearing everything, taking forward, all the aspects from all the students whatsoever in the interactive, aspect possible, with all the participations in mind, and obviously taking you forward with all the improvement that he can, take you forward whatsoever end to end. So here is the link of the boot camp which you can go ahead and enroll. So, please feel free to, enroll there. If you have any queries, you can reach me out directly over my email ID. You can also, reach out to the chat feature out there being embedded inside our, our website, or you can also reach out to, Varun also personally. I'm also there on LinkedIn, by the way. Here's my LinkedIn ID. So don't hesitate to reach me out if you have any doubts or queries, be it technical, be it non-technical. We are always there to help support you end to end anytime. Again, we will be again meeting. Please share, or show love for us. Once we are done with the, session, with all your likes, shares, comments, on the YouTube video link, whatever you have joined. And yeah, so we look forward to your feedback. This is Agile, and that's how we adapt and take it forward, end to end. Okay. Yes, Chen, I see that. Yeah, you can definitely review the bootcamp whatsoever. We have, video clippings out there. If you reach me out, I will also share with you. And also go ahead and take a demo session with each and every one of you if needed at our end. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and make sure that you know how we go ahead and take things forward. We strive for your success. And that's what, we go ahead and do end to end, day in and day out. So it's all about you and us striving forward towards a decent enough relationship, not constrained or confined within PMP, but way beyond. That's how we are looking forward into it. Okay, so I see other comments. So someone is PMP certified and joining such sessions helps to build up concepts. Absolutely, that's what we are looking forward to. So these are real time questions, by the way, and that's where we are pitching in line or syncing it with all of you, and to make things clear. PMI way of thinking, elimination tips and tricks. Yeah, the other tips and tricks in the sense keywords technique and the way you saw, right? Reading the question, taking it forward. These are all what matters out here. Okay, so I see that we are done with addressing all the comments. Thank you again for your participation out there in the meeting. I look forward to having you again in the upcoming meeting. We'll be discussing again number of questions as you found today out here. So thank you. Have a great evening. See you all.